us in the community that we're in, you do get judged sometimes. Like you might make like a comment and then you're thinking, oh God, no, I shouldn't have said that because now they're going to think that of me. So there's always that kind of stigma that comes with what you're saying.
Sometimes I do think to myself, I'm like, oh my God, have we just talked about that? Then I'm like, no, why? For so long we've been told not to talk about those things, or we just push those things, under the carpet, and it's hidden away. You don't need to know about those things. But then it's nice that we're able to, but then there's still that feeling, isn't there?
Yeah.
That I know I still have it, because we are shrouded by the big massive bit of our culture where we're not still supposed to be talking or even acknowledging that we know about these things.
That's it. I think for us as well, we're still seen as like young. So then when we're coming out with things, the older generation are probably looking, going, no, you can't say that, you can't do this. There are days when we'll just go into different topics and different subjects. And it's nice because it's nice to kind of get it off your chest. But for a fact, if someone's listening in, they're probably thinking, oh my God, how can they say that? Like, how can they be even talking about something like that? You do sometimes wonder, oh God, did we go a little bit too far? Should we have stopped? But then, no, I don't think we should have. I found it's helped me a little bit more because we're living it. So then being able to actually talk about it, it's actually like a place to vent. And I think for me, it's helped me a little bit more because, like I said before, like when I met Laddie, I never spoke about half the stuff that I'm experiencing or what I've been through. But then being able to talk about it, I actually feel a lot lighter. I can go to bed and I'm still thinking about it. I'm excited to do it. I'm thinking, okay, look, this is going to help this person, or I can't wait to speak to Laddie about this tomorrow because I've got this idea. And then when we listen to each other, it's nice. It's different.
It's refreshing.
Yeah.
To say that, okay, and we've had the hate, Prab, especially because she's running the Instagram account, we've had the hate from it, and it's from the men.
Yeah.
It's from the Indian men that think we have no right doing this.
I remember at the beginning, so we were known as Sikh relationships at the beginning, and the amount of messages that I got from Sikh men that were like, oh, how dare you use Sikh, change your name, what you're saying is incorrect, and all of that. And it was the constant going back and forth. And I didn't really want to engage, but sometimes you just have to, because it's just like, well, you can't tell me what to do. And then even in the lives, you just know that some people aren't happy with it, and some people are only coming on to see what you're saying.
We're not going out there to hurt anybody. Every video, every post, we've always said it's us. We're not telling people how to live their lives. We're expressing our views. That us too. We're just expressing our lived experience. And that's in 2021, where it's supposed to be all about all of this openness and being able to have freedom of speech. We're not allowed to express our lived experience.
So then it's kind of like gaslighting our whole experience, but it's like, we know what we've been through, we know what you guys are also going through. Like, all we want is just to be able to talk. All we want
Stand together.
exactly.
Yeah.
And people just don't. I had a girl leave me a message going, I think you're incorrect in saying all this, you're bringing shame onto Sikhism. And it's just like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm talking about the culture.
And that's a massive issue, isn't it? Culture and religion are so really badly mixed up, and they have been for so long, generations. We've been brought up, me and Prab, and countless number of Asian women, that you get threatened with religion, and I say that threatened, but actually it's culture, it's the norms and the values that seem to be filling up your family life, but they tell you, oh, it's under religion. And it's so confusing when you step out of it, like us, and then you look back and think, no, why did this ever happen? Why did we go to the temple on a Sunday every Sunday? Why was that a thing? But no one can ever answer that question to you. Why can't you wash your hair on a certain day? No one can justify that to you.
At the beginning, the reason I started doing this is I kind of turned my back towards Sikhism as a religion, because when I was growing up, it's like Laddie said, I didn't know there was a difference between the culture and the religion. I always thought it was a religion. And I was just like, well, there's so much inequality. Why would I want to be part of this? And it was only when I started getting older and I started reading more about Sikhism and the religion that I thought, hang on, like everything I've been taught, everything that we get taught growing up, it's not really religious aspects, it's actually just culture. Like the culture can be so toxic. And then you do wonder, how does it even go hand in hand? Like the religion doesn't promote that, yet the culture does. But then it's just like you're promoting the culture, not the religion. But then you're saying, oh, this is going to happen if you don't follow it. And it's two different things, and it's really conflicting.
And it was always, wasn't it? Probably it was always, this is going to happen. I can't think of the right Punjabi phrase in my head now, but it was always, this is going to happen.
We're stuck in like I wouldn't even say dual culture, like a multicultural. Like we don't fit into the British culture, mainly because we're not British enough, because we have to adhere to the kind of Punjabi culture. But then you also have a Sikh culture on top of that. Then you also have like other cultures that you kind of have to be a part of. So for us, we don't. I feel like when people say, "Oh, it's a cultural thing," and it's just like, well, which culture? Because I seem to be part of like 100 right now.
It's like when you fill in forms, there's such a massive disparity, because it's like a lot of them would just be British, and a lot of them will break it down, and I'm like, well, my passport says British, but actually no, because I'm British Indian.
Yeah.
It's so hard to say, but I feel like then, if as soon as I say I'm British Indian, it's like I'm judged, because you're not British, you're not proper British. But you know, they say curry is like number one or something still. Is it nation's favorite dish?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even call that Indian, would you, these days?
It's not Indian.
Yeah,
We never got taught to make the stuff that they sell in the Indian takeaway.
exactly.
That's
And that's damaging to us, isn't it? That's not us, but that's what people have. And that it's like bend it like Beckham. As soon as you talk about Indian, this, oh, bend it like Beckham.
Yeah.
Or East is East. It's like, yeah, we don't hate those films. I'm not saying love those films, but that's where automatically people's brains go to when they hear that, and it's like, no, learn. Our history is never going to be taught on a curriculum in this country. We're never going to push for it. We know that's a losing battle, but that doesn't mean people shouldn't make the effort to learn or ask. I wouldn't be offended if someone actually wholeheartedly came up to me and asked to know about me.
Yeah.
I think both of us would be grateful. We wouldn't probably need to push as hard as we are pushing if people had just in our lives just felt that they could ask us. But I don't know if that's a thing where they think we're going to get angry or we're going to think it's racist. But if you don't ask, you won't know.
Because when you go to India, you don't fit in, even
No.
though you're Indian, you're British Indian, but you're too British in India, but then you're too Indian for Britain.
I didn't really ever understand it till I had to study it. I remember reading about all of this stuff, and it's trauma. It's intergenerational trauma that has just followed, and it's a cycle that just follows and follows and follows throughout. And it is mainly the women. I know, we're females here, the males will have their own perspective, but we can only speak for the perspective that we know, that we've lived. And it is, until I read about it at the age of 29, that's when it kind of clicked amongst everything else that was happening for me at that time. It was like, no, this isn't life. This isn't a life. It's the life I've led, but it's not the life I want. And that's when I realized, and that's when I've tried to talk to my mum, my mother-in-law, my grandma, but because they've fully lived it up to, they're in their late 50s, 70s, they don't know how to come out of that loop now. That's what life has been. It's been, you cook, you clean, you do all of that. You're lucky if you have a job, but you'll never have a job as good as your husband's. It's those things that keep you sort of on a perch. Your husband's on the pedestal, but you're on the perch underneath. And it's, you're the mother. The father does the disciplining, but the mother does the nurturing. But then if something bad happens, the mother gets the blame. It's those little nuances that they go unspoken otherwise. That happened all through my life. It's all gone unspoken. I followed suit when I got married. I became the wife, the daughter-in-law, the mom, until it clicked. And I realized I went through my whole life up to my conscience where at 3 years old, where I can remember things. And it was different. I had a cousin brother, 1 year younger than me, probably not even a full year. And I could bring back all the differences up until we grew up.
It still happens. It doesn't matter. Like if we're getting older, and you would have thought by now things would have started to change, but people our age are still like Luddy said, like you grow up and then you're in those roles because that's what you're taught, and only a few are going to question it, and the people that do question it, some of them just go along with it because it's hassle to actually try and go against it.
I've been saying the phrase "prab" to Georgia, "Loki gohunge."
That's it.
That's
What it all comes back down to. What will people say?
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're crying in a corner every night, because that's all you can do is hide and cry to get through it, get over that day. But it still matters that other people don't see you crying.
And it's not for the husband or anyone else to look after you. No one's there because no one's ever been taught to be there and try and be supportive of the wife or whatever. It's always, you're on your own, and that's just the way it is.
You go to school, make sure you get your A stars at school, go to college, doctor, whatever, solicitor, dentist, anything that's got a title to it basically is seen as a legitimate career. If you do anything against that, it's not a legitimate career. It's gonna be you then get the shame off. Who's gonna marry you?
Yeah.
You have to be a certain weight. Who's gonna marry you? You can't make round chapatis. Who's gonna marry you?
It even comes back down to skin tone as well. Like if you're like a darker shade of brown, who's going to marry you? You have to be the lighter shade of brown because that's seen as more acceptable than someone who's a bit darker. So I know a lot of people that won't even go out when the sun's out because they're thinking I can't tan.
But how many makeup artists are the ones that they're purposely making these brides look lighter on their wedding day? You can see it a mile off.
I think in our culture you have to kind of hide your identity. If your identity does not fit with the expectations, you have to hide it. And I think everyone's hiding something because you're not allowed to openly say, oh, I'm this, or I've been through that, or this. You just can't say it.
The judgment.
Yeah.
You go through different roles. You're never actually yourself. You just go from role to role to role to role, meeting expectations of that role. In our Punjabi culture, it pretty much is you're molded into this beautiful little daughter-in-law. And with that, you have the outskirts of a mom and all of that, but you're molded into it. It's like, as a child, the boys had toy cars, guns, action figures. For me, it was like do you remember in Prab, the little rolling pin set with the little flat base thing to roll the chapatis on?
Yeah, you have to learn how to do them, how to make them round.
Yeah.
All the actions with the hand that you have to do like that and then put it on. They're just preparing you for later life.
You don't think of it back then. Like I always say, I love cooking. Then I think back and I think, of course, I'm going to love cooking. That's what I was doing back at that age. That's what I was taught to do.
If you end up having a child and it's a girl, there's still that stigma like, oh, firstborn's girl. Someone else just had a boy, but you've had a girl, and it still sticks. And then there's arguments in marriages, but the people causing the issues, they're not there to help you out.
And even now, look at us, it's judgment. There's no world where I hope there is for my child, I hope there's going to be a future where he can say and do as he wishes. But right now, it's really, really, really bleak. But I don't see it. We're still fighting. That's not going to stop us fighting. But we're massive wall, isn't it?
And something has to change. And I think for future generations, like I want to have kids one day, but I can't bring them up in what I'm living in at the moment. It's just something I wouldn't do because it is trauma. And I can't do that until I'm 100% at that stage where I'm free from what we got brought up in.
Yeah, and I'm the other end. I'm bringing a child up. So I see the way that stuff is loaded on him. I was so depressed when I was pregnant, and pregnancy, you shouldn't feel like that. You should be happy. My pregnancy was good, easy. I was depressed because I needed to know the gender, not for myself. My husband didn't need to know the gender. It's because his granddad was constantly, oh, it's going to be a boy. It has to be a boy. All these things he kept saying. I was scared to have a girl. So scared to have a girl. I keep getting badgered. My son's just turned 6. Keep getting badgered. You can have another one. You can have another one. They don't accept our answer. It isn't good enough that we've had one. And whereas Prav's getting the when you're gonna have one talk, ours is when you can have another one. We've given the answer a million times. We're happy. We don't feel the need constantly. When you can have another one.
There's just so many barriers. Like even when you try and contact like Sikh Temple so that you can try and have a say and try and educate, it's a no, because we're not the right kind of Sikh. We don't look it. That's the other thing. Like we've got both got our hair cut short.
Yeah.
So we don't look Sikh enough to go into a temple and start saying stuff.
Yeah. How dare you wear sleeveless tops, Prav? How dare I have tattoos? How dare I have piercings?
I think that's the other thing, like those barriers. You would think that you can go to your own community, but then even in that community, you've got like a hierarchy. And at the moment, because of the way that we look and the way that we dress and our lifestyle choices, we don't even hit the probably the middle tier. We're probably right at the bottom.
Well,
so we're not ever going to be listened to.
Defo's right at the bottom because we've got big mouths.
That's it.
They won't even entertain our conversation because we're there knocking on their door.
Yeah.
But they see us out, they'll be quick to comment about that, not the fact that we were knocking on their doors asking for them to pay attention to us. You just can't. There's no, the words just don't come out because the anger comes out with them. It's so hard to explain because, like Prab said, we're living it. It's not that we've lived it, we're still living it. And for the foreseeable, it will just be a part of our lives. As much as we will change it, adapt it, we can't remove it.
I personally think we might hit a time where there's more people that are open to learning and open to change. I wouldn't say it's going to be like full-blown change because I don't think it will be. I don't think we're going to ever, me and Loddy probably won't see it in our lifetime. It's not going to be a whole different culture. The culture will still remain. But I think for us, even if we're helping so many people, even if it seems like a small amount, I think that's still quite good for me.
It's that ripple. If we can cause a bit of a ripple effect, that will then slowly just build up itself to a wave. But it's that, we're not naive. We've got lives, we've got work lives, we've got personal lives. We know we fully can't invest in change from the core at this moment in our lives. But that doesn't mean our heads and our hearts aren't in it. But we know we have to look after ourselves first. Because if we go in and say, say we get an event and we're both drained, or one of us is even just drained because work has been crazy that week or whatever, how can we then go out in front of people and effectively we're selling an idea? How can we do that and then believe us if we just look like we're not there? I'm from a massive family. I'm surrounded by boys constantly. I've had to fight for everything. Going back to the point, my grades had to always be on point. Doesn't matter what the boys got. If they could do what they wanted, they can go out where they want. Me, I had to prove everywhere I was going, had to show my train tickets, all of those things. I could have just been going from one station to the next, but it was all of that just to prove that I'm not doing anything that the boys clearly are. I used to go in my teens. There was a group of us in the temple. It was like the side bit. They had like a youth centre. And once a week on a Wednesday evening, I remember it, we'd get off the college coach and we'd walk over. And there, it's supposed to be like, it was different topics every week. Yeah, probably half an hour on the topic. Then it came to God, 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 God. We just switched off. Rather than, okay, share. And you felt judged if you did say anything. But there you go, religion and culture. Only till I got married, I started drinking in front of my parents. Because it was like, well, I'm married now, what can you do about it? My tattoos I got in secret. until I got married and I got more, that was then in front of my parents. Then it was like, well, Dad, you've got some. Here you go. And that's not rebellion. That's, now I'm way past that. But back then, it was rebellion. Our words didn't mean anything, did they, Prab? So it was our actions, those little things that we were doing that made us think, oh, wow, I'm free. Not really.
God, when I was drinking, I started drinking at uni, but I couldn't ever let my parents know. And I was always scared, oh my God, they're going to find out. Someone's going to tell them. And then when my dad did find out, it was really embarrassing. But then things started to change with him and he kind of accepted it. I'm lucky, I was able to drink in front of my in-laws without being judged. But for many people, that's a really big thing. There are like now comments made towards Indian girls that drink, and they're like, oh, they drink more than their dads or something like that. And it's like, so even if you're drinking, you're getting insulted for drinking because you're a woman. I feel like Indian girls especially have to grow up really quick. So by the age of 18, I felt like I was really mature for my age compared to other people. So we get really good at hiding stuff, and Nadi can vouch for it. Like, we could genuinely be actors. You have to hide everything. Like, in front of your family, you're someone else. In front of your friends, you're someone else. In front of your partner, you're someone else. And it's because you have to, because you can't be you. Or do you even ever truly understand who you are?
It is. It's like they're shaving off bits of your personality and bits of your demeanor and even your looks and everything to make you fit into that.
I think that's what I always say, you can't be you. And even if you try to be, dependent on where you are and where you go, you have to adapt, because otherwise you won't fit in. And even if you're standing there as a sore thumb, you're still getting judged.
Mm-hmm.
There was an article as well that I found. Actually, someone sent it, and it said something like mental health services are failing the South Asian community because there is too much of a one-size-fits-all approach. Yeah. And I've noticed one thing so I worked in the domestic violence field, and when we were doing the program, it wasn't culturally sensitive. So some of the stuff that we had to teach, like Asian men, I knew for a fact if they were teaching it to me, I'd be like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And that's why, like, things that are so set won't work. And I think that's why, like, that's a big barrier. Like, when I accessed mental health services when I was 18, for me, the counsellor didn't have a clue about my culture, about my own personal barriers. So when she was saying, go do this, I was just thinking, well, you don't have a clue. Like, I can't just go and do that. I just can't go and talk to my family about it because they don't get it.
No. And you can't say, anyway, I'm going to therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, when are you going to have that conversation? Oh, by the way, guys, I'm in counselling.
Exactly.
And it was exactly the same for me. I was having to, rather than tell my story freely to someone, I was having to explain all the cultural issues in between that story. And that, not that it shouldn't be that way, but there's this massive thing in the counselling field as well about culturally sensitive therapy, culturally informed practice. It isn't, because it's culturally informed from a British perspective. It's culturally informed from counselling population of counsellors are generally white middle class women in their 40s and 50s. It's their cultural information. That is going to be different to mine and Prab's. That is going to be different to a teenager's. That's what I don't understand, why no one gets it. That you can't do that to people. And that's why the uptake of the, I hate the term BAME, population into these things is so low, because it's never focused on them fully at all. I don't want to be the only one doing it, but that shows in our job roles, Prab, how many Asian people are doing them?
There isn't.
So how many Asian people are going to access them?
There isn't. And that's the thing. And I think that is such a barrier to so much. There's so much support out there, but I do think to some extent it is limited to white males and females, because there are so many things that I've wanted to access, but I'm just thinking, you don't understand me, so I can't be there.
No. When you've got people like Priti Patel, Sadiq Khan high up now, who are, I'm sorry, whitewashed, They're not representative of us
No.
at all. But you've got local MPs and councillors that are able to do this, but because the population isn't backing them to raise our voices, they fall short. Like we're considering doing freshers fairs because we need to hit that target audience. There's no other way around it. The temples aren't letting us in, so we can't hit that audience.